Tonight, the SGA seeks new members.
Plus, students remember victims of the Holocaust. Stay tuned. Troy TrojanVision Nightly News starts now.
Digital Production Center on the Troy campus with news from Troy University locations around the world. This is Troy TrojanVision Nightly News.
Hello and welcome to Troy TrojanVision Nightly News for January 23rd, 2012. I'm Deatra Montgomery.
And I am Bailey Majors. Thank you for joining us this evening. A branch of Troy University Student Government Association is looking for new members, but the branch has a particular type of student in mind. Judson Garner has more.
Calls itself Alabama's International University, but the Student Government Association based on Troy's main campus does not reflect the slogan. Few international students get involved, leaving them out of the decision-making for the campus that the majority of these students call home away from home.
Troy has such a huge international student population, and so it kind of bothers me to see that SGA is mainly just, residents of Alabama and America.
To counteract this social gap, the SGA created the International Student Forum dedicated to international students. Much like the Freshman Forum, its purpose is to let these students know that they can get involved, and it shows them how.
My goal for International Student Forum is to get them acquainted with SGA, get them to see how everything runs, and then hopefully that will motivate them to want to get involved when they're not in ISF anymore and to run for a position later on in the Senate.
Judson Garner, Troy TrojanVision News.
And if you are interested in applying for the International Student Forum, a sign-up sheet will be available in the SGA office by Friday. The SGA office is located on the second floor of the Trojan Center, room 215.
Last year, Troy created a new bachelor's degree in dance, and this week, members of the program are hitting the road to show off what they have learned. Friday night, Troy dancers will perform at the Davis Theater on Troy's Montgomery campus. The dancers will perform a pair of shows, Hearts Beating and The Apartment. Director of the performance, Ellie Lazar, feels that taking the show on the road is a good way of showing off the talent they have to offer.
The Davis Theater, which is also pretty much, we're calling it as a family theater that we're very much familiar with, pretty much going on what last year happened with band gigs that traveled to Detroit, making this part of their community concert series that we can really showcase our talent and the wonderful thing that's happening here.
The show will be Friday night at 7 o'clock at the Davis Theater on Troy Montgomery campus. Tickets are $10. For information about purchasing tickets, you can contact the Davis office at 334-241-9567. Well, Bailey, Troy University has held several events for this year of remembrance of the Holocaust.
That's absolutely right, Deatra. And last night, students and Troy residents were able to learn how a paperclip helped remember Holocaust victims. Tuesday night, the Johnson Center for the Arts welcomed 8th grade teacher Sandra Roberts from Whitwell, Tennessee, for a lecture explaining how an international project started with 14-year-olds asking simple questions that had no simple answers.
It is so awesome to share the story of my children and the project that they created. I was able to share how my students decided to ask how and why people were killed in the Holocaust.
These questions led to the beginnings of the Paperclips project, now 14 years in the making, in which students decided to collect one paperclip to represent each person that died in the Holocaust.
They were trying to get an idea of how many were 11 million, because there were 11 million victims of the Holocaust.
Throughout the Paperclips project, Roberts encouraged her students to recognize each victim as a person rather than an unnamed individual.
Really easy to get wrapped up in numbers and figures and data from that time period, but to really connect with and understand how it must have felt as a family member, as a spouse, as a child, to go through a traumatic time like that.
Roberts' lecture was part of Troy University's Year of Remembrance of the Holocaust and marked the closing of the Holocaust exhibit Darkness into Life. Those in attendance in the lecture said they realized the importance of remembering the Holocaust.
Unfortunately, we are in an era where the last of the survivors from the Holocaust are passing away. We need to remember their stories and pass them on because we don't want to just be something that we've read in the history book.
Kind of neat to hear, I guess, a little bit, kind of a different side about the Holocaust. Probably learn more than I ever would just sitting in a classroom tonight with someone who really cares.
Troy University's Year of Remembrance of the Holocaust will continue with a 6-week film series starting at the end of January.
And now taking that look at news from around the state. In Montgomery, Alabama's Liquor Control Agency is to decide if the newly reopened Victoryland Casino in Shorter will receive a license to sell alcoholic beverages. The Alabama Alcoholic Beverage Control Board met today about Victoryland's application for a license.
And in Tuscaloosa, police say a woman is charged with selling drugs across the street from the city's police station. Police say 24-year-old Bridget Ann Barnett of Tuscaloosa is charged with marijuana possession and distribution, plus possession of drug paraphernalia.
And also in Montgomery, a dairy farmer has been chosen to serve as a spokesman for a National Farmers Association. Will Gilmer of Lamar County will serve as one of 4 national spokesmen for the U.S. Farmers and Ranchers Alliance. Officials say Gilmer and other winners were selected from a pool of more than 100 applicants in the National Faces of Farming and Ranching program.
Still to come on TrojanVision Nightly News, Daniel Percival will bring us a closer look at one former Trojan football player as he looks to make his way to the NFL.
But first, the House is set to vote on a debt limit plan that would allow the government to continue to borrow more money. We'll have that story and more after the break.
House Republicans tie action on the debt limit to congressional paychecks. I'm Randall Pinkston on Capitol Hill in Washington with the story coming up.
Today is a special day. Today we gather as a nation and as an international community to recognize the selfless decision of one of the most influential women of our time. She's been recognized by religious figures and politicians around the world. To us, she's just Rachel. But to the rest of the world, she's the woman who, after having one too many drinks, chose not to drive home buzzed. Here today to honor Rachel is the family whose lives she spared.
From the high-definition digital production studios of Troy University, you're watching the award-winning TrojanVision Nightly News.
And now for a look at what's happening across the nation and around the world, we'll go to Deatra Montgomery at the Global News Desk. Deatra?
Thanks, Bailey. There's a truce in the battle over the debt limit. The House passed a bill that buys the country another 4 months before it risks default. But the measure forces the Senate to do something it hasn't done in nearly 4 years. Pass a budget. We'll get more from Randall Pinkston on Capitol Hill.
House Republicans voted to head off a debt showdown with the White House.
Laid on the table.
They passed a bill that will suspend the debt limit until May, allowing the government to continue paying its bills. But there is a catch.
The principle, I think, is pretty simple. No budget, no pay.
House Republicans are requiring Senate Democrats who haven't passed a budget in nearly 4 years to get the job done or start missing paychecks.
We know with certainty that a debt crisis is coming to America. This is not a question of if, it's a question of when.
House Democrats voted against the measure.
This bill simply sets up another GOP-manufactured crisis in 4 months.
Senate Democratic leadership say they will vote on the House bill, but lawmakers had some choice words for the no-pay provision.
The Tea Party plays a big part in what goes on in the House, and they need a gimmick or two to get things done over there.
House Republicans weren't going to raise the debt limit unless they got equal spending cuts, but came up with the paycheck deal at a GOP retreat last week.
It sure had a mellowing effect on their members. Maybe there were deep breathing exercises, soft jazz music, but something good happened.
Democratic senators say they will draft a budget.
It took 1 week in which their paychecks were on the line that now the Senate's going to step up and do the right thing.
The White House says the president will sign the bill.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton testified in front of House and Senate Foreign Relations Committee about the attack that left 4 Americans dead at the U.S. mission in Libya. Tempers flared as congressmen questioned her about what led up to the events on September the 11th of last year. Tara Mergener is at the Capitol with the latest.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton faced tough questions from Senate and House members about the attack on the U.S. mission in Libya.
Were you personally in any way at fault?
Some Republican senators suggested the Obama administration misled Americans about what happened.
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Republicans grilled Clinton about requests from the Benghazi staff for more security before the attack. Clinton admitted those messages never crossed her desk.
Had I been president at the time, and I found that you did not read the cables from Benghazi, you did not read the cables from Ambassador Stevens, I would have relieved you of your post.
An independent review board found a series of breakdowns at the State Department that led to security lapses at the consulate. Clinton took responsibility for what happened and said the focus is now on fixing mistakes.
Clinton is in her final days as Secretary of State, but during both hearings here on Capitol Hill, she assured congressmen changes are already being made to make the State Department stronger.
She became emotional while describing the return of the 4 Americans killed in Benghazi.
I put my arms around the mothers and fathers, the sisters and brothers, the sons and daughters, and the wives left alone to raise their children.
Clinton says those responsible for the murders will be held accountable. Tara Mergener for CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The nutrition labels we see on food packages may be due for an upgrade. The government's latest research shows consumers are misreading the labels and may be consuming a lot more calories than they think. Alexis Christophorus tells us how that may change.
Jennifer Beal is a college student living on her own for the first time. When she buys something at the supermarket, she always reads the nutrition label.
When I was in middle school in my consumer ed class, they taught us how to read it.
But the Food and Drug Administration thinks the labels need an update. The agency surveyed thousands of consumers who said they find some of the information confusing, particularly when it comes to how many calories are inside. This label tells you there are 160 calories, but that's per serving. Consumers may not realize there are actually 3 servings in this one bag of chips. And it can be easy to eat more than you intended. This muffin label says 170 calories per serving, but a serving size is half a muffin. Beal says some of the labels just don't make sense.
I got pickles and it said like 1/4 of a pickle was a serving size.
The FDA has some proposals to simplify things. For example, calculating the nutrition in snack-sized bags as just one big serving, or using a dual column system, one column with calories per serving, the other for the total package. The FDA is also considering a larger font size for numbers that show calories and removing the calories from fat section, which is difficult for consumers to understand.
I agree with that. I think that they get very confused by the percent calories from fat. So I think just the total calories would be beneficial for them.
The next step is to get input from the public and try the changes in stores. Alexis Christophorus, CBS News, New York.
And that wraps things up from the Global News Desk. To see more stories from across the country and around the world, such as was Beyonce singing live or was she lip-syncing the national anthem at the presidential inauguration, you can tune in to Trojan Vision Global News right after the nightly news. Now back to you, Bailey.
Thank you, Deatra. And now Danielle Percival joins us for a look at sports. So Danielle, over the weekend we were able to see what a former Troy Trojan has been up to since leaving Troy University.
That's right, Bailey. 3 former Trojans were in action in Montgomery in an all-star game. And tonight we're going to take a little bit closer look at one of those Trojans as he's preparing to try and make his way to the NFL.
All right.
He's probably most recognizable for his grill. We've almost all seen it. But that's not the only thing flashy about Chip Reeves. He's also known for doing this.
Southward with him. Here's the deep snap from Wilborn. Robinson wants to go downfield. Looks for Chip Reeves against single coverage. Makes a leaping grab at the 1-yard line. Amazing.
It doesn't take long to tell that Chip Reeves is a skilled player. The folks at the Raycom College Football All-Star Classic knew, and that's why he was selected to join players from across the nation.
I feel like it's an honor because,
They mean we are the best players in the country, and for me to get selected to play against, the best players in the country, that means it made me feel like I'm good, it made me feel like everything I work for, happening for me.
Reeves was a member of the Troy team in 2009 and 2010 before leaving for one season. He said Coach Larry Blakeney and his staff helped him return to the field and become a better player.
I kind of struggled a little bit before I came back, which me having been out of school for a year and then having to return back. They kind of took me under their wing and told me, it's time to grow up. We know you can play football. Now you need to just get back on the horse and go handle your business. I feel like everything they told me came true, and I give them the credit.
In 2012, Reeves led the Sun Belt with 87.5 yards per game. He was also the only player in the Sun Belt to have 5 100-yard receiving games this season.
I had a lot of people pulling for me, but I just didn't know it at the time. So, it feels good to be here doing exactly what they told me I can do, as long as I do exactly what they tell me to do, which is the right thing, and it all work out.
Currently, Reeves is preparing for Pro Day, which will be on March 4th.
And Coach Huntsy got me as soon as I got back to Troy, and he put weight on me, got me faster, got me everything I needed to be in order to be a pro. So that's what I'm gonna finish out my workout with for the rest of it until I get ready to do my Pro Day.
We'll be keeping up with Reeves as he gets prepared for Pro Day and looks to land a spot in the pros. But looking ahead to next season for the Trojans, there's some 2013 news to get into. Troy will be facing 7 bowl teams in 2013 after a deal was signed for a home-and-home series with Duke. Troy will play at Duke this season, while the Blue Devils will make the trip to Troy in 2014. Members from the Troy track and field team have been selected to participate in a multi-event meet at Sanford today. 2 seniors, Christina Barrett and Veronica Bryant, will be competing, and those 2 hold the 3rd and 4th spots all-time respectively for the pentathlon at Troy University. The women's team will then be traveling tomorrow to Jonesboro, Arkansas to compete at the Arkansas State Invitational, which will be on Friday. For the women's basketball team, they played one of their better games this season on Saturday. However, they still came up a little short. It was a much better performance than Thursday's game, though. Against FAU, the Trojans committed 31 turnovers, which was a season high. On Saturday, they flipped that number around to just 13 turnovers, in large part to a little added practice.
Called Lynn University and used their gym, and we went and ran for the turnovers. It was way too many. It was unacceptable. We talked about how it was costing us games, and I thought the team did a tremendous job of turning it around and cutting from 31 to 13 on a very good FIU team.
The women's team will hit the court in about 24 hours. Game time tomorrow is set for 5:15 against Arkansas State. The Trojans are still looking for their first conference victory. It'd be nice to get it at home. For the men's team, they too lost on Saturday in a pretty close game. The men had won back-to-back games and were looking for 3 in a row, but a late run by FIU cost them the game. It's a situation the Trojans have been in several times this season, and that's something Coach Don Maestri knows his team has to work on.
We have been, hopefully, have learned how to recover quicker than a lot of teams in the country after a loss. I think you got to get over it immediately. The next day you go back to work, and the best way to do that is to run extra, because it's kind of like going to confession. You kind of get the sins off of your shoulders, and you get thinking about the next game, which is Arkansas State.
The men will also be in action tomorrow night against the Red Wolves. Their game will begin at 7:30 or upon completion of the women's game. So Bailey Deontra, some home basketball, finally getting back into Trojan Arena. It's always exciting to go attend a game there. Hopefully there'll be lots of fans out there to cheer them on. Hopefully we can pick up some victories.
Absolutely, that'd be great, and best of luck to everyone.
That's right. It'd be nice to see the women's team maybe pick up their first conference victory. It'd be a good thing to do in front of the home crowd.
It definitely would.
Best of luck.
Thanks, Danielle. Still to come on Troy TrojanVision Nightly News, we'll learn about a Mardi Gras themed fundraiser.
But first, the weather seems to get chillier each day. Will we need to continue putting on more layers, Courtney?
Well, Bailey, I don't think it's time to put away your long sleeves or jackets just yet, but I have more details coming up next in weather.
I was afraid of that.
Well, guess it's time to get you fixed.
Your pets will start fooling around sooner than you think.
Go on, get out of here!
Accidental litters lead to millions killed in shelters each year. Help prevent more. Fix at month 4.
I would tell anybody, if you're getting your master's, I would start with Troy first.
It's easy. You can take classes online, you take them on ground.
Because being a full-time mom, full-time dad, and working full-time with Troy, it was just perfect. It worked for us.
On campus or online, Troy offers you an extraordinary education with the flexibility you need. Troy University. It's all you need to know.
We both earned our masters in public administration, and I choose Troy.
We choose Troy.
That's right. We choose Troy.
From the high-definition digital production studios of Troy University, you're watching the award-winning TrojanVision Nightly News.
Now Courtney Addison joins us for a look at weather.
Well, Courtney, it seems like each day that goes by, it seems like it's getting colder and colder. I mean, will it get any warmer anytime soon?
Exactly. Today it was really overcast and really cold, and it looks like tomorrow it's going to warm up just a little bit, not much. Still keep a jacket on hand, but I'll have more details on that. First, let's take a look at our campus snapshot. Looking at our campus snapshot, we can see that it's a rather still really cloudy outside, pretty much overcast all day. When the sun comes out, it warms up just a little bit. For the most part, it's been cloudy all day. Going into our current conditions, we have partly cloudy skies today. Temperature coming in at 59, dew point at 45, humidity at 37, barometer coming in at 30.31 and steady, and winds coming in from the southwest at 5 miles per hour. Looking at today's statistics, we got a high of 61, a low of 45. There was no rain. Sunrise was at 6:48 a.m. and the sun should set at 5:10 p.m. And now taking a look at temperatures from around the state, for the most part, everyone had really cloudy skies today, with the exception of Birmingham. Really partly cloudy skies, with the exception of Birmingham. They had cloudy for most part of the day. Mobile coming in at 62, Birmingham at 52, Huntsville 55, Montgomery at 57, Troy at 58, Phoenix City at 51, and Dothan at 61 as well. So for the most part, everyone had partly cloudy skies today. Temperature coming in pretty much in the 50s throughout the state. Going into our current temperatures around the southeast, we have very cool temperatures. People seeing anywhere from the 50s to the 60s. But if we look farther back towards west, parts of Texas are seeing temperatures into the 70s, so we can look for some of those warmer temperatures to come into our area in the next couple of days. That's just something we'll have to keep our eye on. Going into current temperatures around the United States, we have most everyone in the western part of the southwest is seeing very warm temperatures. But if we look to the northern border of the United States, they're seeing very cool temperatures. Parts of places are seeing temperatures even in the negatives. We have -4, and in Maine, some places even come in at -3. Looking at our departure from normal. In the southwest, they're seeing temperatures a lot warmer than they usually do this time of the year. But as I said, farther up north, it's very cold. And we look at place of Maine who is seeing temperatures into the -3. They're also seeing temperatures in like -23 degrees lower than they usually do. Looking at our current surface area, we'll see 2 high pressure systems developing farther out west, not having a whole lot of effect on our area right now, but that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. Going closer into our area, we have this high pressure system kind of lingering out into the in the Gulf of Mexico. And looking at our precipitation forecast for the next 48 hours, not a whole lot of rain right in our area, but northern Alabama and northern Mississippi do have a chance of seeing rain just a little bit, in about 20.25 inches of rain. Going into Thursday's forecast, should be rain clear in our area, with the exception of the northern part of Louisiana seeing a little bit of rain. And going into Friday, we should remain clear in our area, but if you're looking to travel up north, northern part of Alabama and Mississippi are seeing lots of rain. You also could run into a chance of seeing icy conditions and snow, so if you're going to be traveling, make sure you keep an eye on that. Going into Saturday's forecast, should remain clear in our area, and going into Sunday, should remain clear as we finish up our week. Looking at tonight's forecast, we have mainly clear skies, a chilly night with light winds coming in from the east-northeast at 4 miles per hour with a low of 45. So it's going to be a really chilly night outside. So if you are going to be outside, make sure that you keep that jacket and cardigan on hand. And going into tomorrow's forecast, we have partly cloudy skies, mostly afternoon clouds. So and we also have light winds coming in from the north-northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour with a high of 65. So it is going to be a little bit warmer tomorrow than it was today. Looking at our 4-day forecast, we have Thursday coming in with a high of 65, low of 42. Friday, high of 70, low of 45. Also, a 20% chance of rain for Thursday and Friday. Friday coming in at a high of 38, and Sunday, the high of 64. So, Deatra, Bailey, it's going to warm up just a little bit, but then it's going to cool back off towards the end of the weekend.
Well, thank you so much, Courtney.
Thanks.